I'm ready to make me some man-catching beignets. Let's go. Hey, howdy, hey, it is Molly, the Disney Picky Eater, and as you can see, I'm at home, I'm not in Disney. So we are going to start a new series where I try to recreate Disney snacks at home, see if they're worth it, or should you just wait until you're at the park? This is Disney Picky Eater at home. So, in honor of Tiana's Bayou Adventure opening, I am going to make some Mickey-shaped beignets. Now, they sell these at Port Orleans French Quarter in Disney World at the hotel, which they're fantastic. And they also sell them at New Orleans Square in Disneyland, if you've ever been there. I have not. So today I am actually following the recipe straight from Disney. I got this website. I got this recipe from Disney, and we're gonna try to recreate it at home. So good luck to me. It seems like a pretty straightforward, pretty simple recipe to follow. So fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. So we are going to start by mixing yeast and some warm water together. Now I already did this because the water got cold and I had to redo it. So you do this to activate the yeast. And I know what you're thinking, Molly, you are such a picky eater. What in the heck could you possibly know about cooking? And actually, I will say to you, I took 4 years of culinary arts, and that was in high school. And I realized that a lot of the times stuff in high school is not as educationally intense as college, but it was like an AP course. We had a industrial type kitchen, state of the art, brand new when I was in high school. So I know a lot about cooking. I don't eat it, but I can pretty much make anything. So we let the yeast activate in the warm water. So we're gonna set that aside for 5 minutes. I have a timer on my watch. And then you basically just combined everything. And we're gonna combine everything in our stand mixer. It's gonna make a loud sound. There we go. And so yes, so you combine everything. Now this recipe actually calls for shortening, but I just have butter. So I'm just gonna substitute shortening and butter, and that's pretty much okay. All right, so to start, we are combining the sugar. We have 1/4 cup of sugar. I keep my sugar in this cute little Mickey jar. So here I go. And when you're measuring out stuff, dry ingredients always go in these kinds of things. Wet ingredients go in these types of things. It's a different type of measurement. When I was younger, we used to just like chuck everything together and we didn't care. We didn't care what we were using, but as I got older, I realized that's not correct. So, fun little fact. Another fun fact, well, not so much a fun fact, but a pro tip by me, is that before you start cooking anything or you start baking anything, you should make sure that your dishwasher or sink is empty. And I say this because cooking and baking can be stressful, and it can be even more stressful at the end of your cooking and baking going, there's no place for all of this dirty crap. So it is easier to just know that you have a space, not worry about it. So my dishwasher is ready to be loaded. Now my hands have butter on them, so I'm gonna wipe them off. All right, shortening, salt. Salt we need, 1/2 teaspoon. I dirtied my teaspoon, so I have to go get another one. Hold on. Luckily for me, I have lots of extra, I have double sets of everything. When I moved, a lot of people gave me the same stuff. So that was lucky for me. Salt. Salt is in. Heavy cream. We also have boiling water, which is a strange thing. I've never seen boiling water in stuff. But for boiling water, we have 1/2 cup of boiling water. So I'm gonna shove that in there now, just so I can do the heavy cream. All right. Heavy cream, we have 1/2 cup of heavy cream. There's a lot of things in this recipe that I have yet to see in a lot of other recipes. We're doing 1/2 cup. Excuse my constant looking at the recipe. I get very anxious about getting things wrong. I don't want to get anything wrong. I don't want to mess up the recipe. All right, that is done. What else do we have in here? An egg. One singular egg. And they actually say you should always crack an egg, and this is true. You should always crack an egg not directly into your bowl. You should always crack an egg into a separate bowl, and I will tell you exactly why. One, you can get shell in it, and that would suck, and it's hard to dig out. Two, there was actually a time when I was in class in culinary, and we're also doing 4 cups of flour. So there was a time when I was in culinary, and we were cracking eggs. And we would always get these, industrial, huge crates of eggs. And so, like, mindlessly, we were just cracking eggs. That's 2. And I cracked an egg, and inside it was green. That's 3. And I was like, this egg is rotten. And this is 4. And I kind of was like really grossed out because I was like, ew, that's a rotten egg. The yolk was green. The egg white was like a weird green color. And my teacher came up to me and said, oh no, that's not a rotten egg. That was a fertilized egg. And I killed a baby chick, basically, is what she was saying. I don't know how true that is, but it definitely scarred me. So always make sure that you crack your eggs outside of where you're actually going, because it could be rotten, you could get shell in it, it's like a whole thing. It's just like a good little culinary tip. Always crack your eggs outside. I know it gives you like a little bit more of a pain in the butt kind of thing to have to do, but you know, safety first. So we have combined everything, and we are going to stir in the yeast mixture. I have to make sure that, oh, I forgot to set, my timer didn't go. Cool. So it's been about 5 minutes. So I will take this stuff out of here. I will put that in there. And we need a dough hook. That's this guy. It's for mixing dough, obviously. If you have a KitchenAid or any other kind of mixer, they usually come with a whisk, a paddle, and a dough hook. The dough hook obviously is for dough. The whisk is for making like whipped cream or meringues or stuff like that. And the paddle is usually for batters. So, you know, cupcakes, pancakes. I don't know many people that make pancakes in a stand mixer. I forgot to plug this in. Please hold. All right, so we've combined everything in here, and we are going to stir in this yeast mixture. Should be nice and activated. It is all dissolved. Let's give it just kind of like a little stir in there. Want to make everything kind of combined it a little bit. A lot of flour. Scrape that guy off. Always make sure your hands are clean because you never know when you're going to have to touch something. All right, and then with a dough hook attachment, we are going to put this on medium speed just until it's combined and smooth. And I will show you what that looks like when it is combined and smooth. So here we go. I forgot to lift up the bowl. It's an important step to mix it. Take 2. We're going to see, I will show you what it looks like as it's mixing. All right, so now we let it rest for 30 minutes, and we will be back in 30 minutes by the magic of editing. Magic. All right, so we have let this rest, sit for 30 minutes. And so the next step is to roll it out, and you want to make sure you have a Mickey-shaped cookie cutter of some kind. This was lent to me by a friend. It's actually a Mickey pancake mold, but she made these beignets during COVID, and she used that. She said it worked just fine. She is a master at baking, so I trust her. So I don't have like a big cutting board or good counter space. As you can see, I'm in my dining room, not my kitchen. It's like a galley kitchen. It's very small. So I put out some parchment paper so that I could do the rolling. It doesn't feel like it's a very sticky dough, so I don't think that I'm going to need to put down flour. We'll see. Sometimes you got to sprinkle flour so that it doesn't get stuck. So the only rolling pin I have is made out of like marble, which is super intense. But we are going to roll this to 1/4 of an inch thick, and then we're going to cut out our Mickey shapes. So we'll speed this along. I think that's good. So this recipe says that it makes 10 Mickey beignets. So we'll see if we get 10 out of this. I mean, it's not a big deal if we don't. It's not a big deal if we get more. So really, no worries either way. And if you don't have a Mickey cutter of any kind, you can, the recipe does explain that you can do just like the classic beignets, which are the square shaped or rectangular shape, and it explains how you do that. So I also brought a cookie sheet with some parchment paper to put them on, because after this step they are also going to have to rest and rise for another hour. So let's speed up this process also. Magic. All right, I managed to get 8 out of that spread. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of leftover dough. So what I could do is kind of smush it back together like you do with cookies, roll it out again, and get even more. 8, I think, is enough for me personally. I'm by myself, so I don't need that. I'm not sure if this is the kind of dough that you can save. Sometimes you can save dough and put it in the freezer and use it for later. That does not have an option on here, but as you can see, this is quite a bit of dough, so you could make a lot more. Now, I don't know if they consider this a large Mickey. It says to use a large Mickey shaped cutter. I also highly suggest getting something that is an actual cutter. It's a little difficult with this since it's not kind of sharpened on one edge because of the fact that it is a pancake mold. But you could absolutely roll this back out. It doesn't say you can't. So you could do that and get even more out of it. So what I'm going to do now is continue following the recipe. I am going to cover this with a towel, and I'm going to let it rise until double in size in a warm, draft-free area, which means I'm going to put them in my kitchen, and then we're going to come back and we're going to fry them. So more movie magic. We'll come back to this. Completely different space. Okay, so we are in the kitchen. We are getting ready for the final steps where we are going to fry up these lovely beignets. You are going to want to get yourself a pot, a large pot. This is like a large spaghetti pot. It could fit about a pound of spaghetti. So you're going to want to get one of these or any kind of large pot that you have. You're going to want to fill this with 3 inches of not olive oil. Absolutely not. Do not use olive oil to fry these kinds of things. You want to get vegetable oil or canola oil. And you're going to need yourself some sort of thermometer. This is a meat thermometer I'm going to be using. You can use a candy thermometer, any kind of cooking thermometer that you need. That is because this oil has to be heated to 350 degrees. Now, a lot of the times when you fry stuff, it doesn't matter. You just throw it in and that's it. This is important to keep it at 350 degrees. So I will be checking it in between each new beignet drop I do in order to keep it at the proper temperature. If it gets too hot, they will cook too fast and they will not cook on the inside, and that's gross. And then you're more likely to burn them. If you cook it too low, then it will take longer, obviously, but it will also suck in more oil. The beignets will be more oily, and that's also gross. So who wants that? So make sure that you are paying attention to the temperature of your oil, and let's go. So oil into the pot. Just gonna eyeball. That's probably good. Jack Jack. Jack Jack is here for the fun. So I'm going to turn it, it says to turn it to about medium heat. My oven is numbers, so I'm going to put it at about 4 because I know that my stove can get a little hot. And then I will check it with the thermometer as I feel it getting warm. I can already feel it getting warm. One of the other things that you want to make sure that you do is get a plate or another sheet pan of some kind and layer it with paper towels, because when you take it out of here, it's going to be a little oily and you want to absorb that. So I'm going to get that ready also. Also, pro kitchen tip, if you're going to put paper towels on a stove like this that has an open flame, be very careful. You do not want to catch anything on fire while you're doing this. So let's check the temperature. It's probably too early to see what this temp is. Ooh, we're at 100. Oh, we're climbing. It is very important to always make sure that you are keeping track of what the oil is, especially if you have to add more oil, that will cool it off. So you definitely want to check in all the in-between. It also is much easier to do this with a candy thermometer. And it's easier for a few reasons. One, candy thermometers are made with a little hook that hooks onto the side of your pot so that you don't have to stand here and hold it. And two, that way you are constantly monitoring the temperature. You're not just putting things in and guessing. So the recipe says that they cook for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side, or until they're golden brown. We won't know if they're right until we are ready for eating. So here we go. All right, we are at a solid 350. I'm going to turn this down the slightest bit, just so it kind of stays where it should be. And I'm going to grab some of these little guys and we're going to plop them in. I think I can fit 3. I can. 3 in my pot. So we're going to let these fry up for about 2 to 3 minutes until they're golden. I'll flip them when I see that they start to turn golden on one side. And then we place them here to dry off. So, ooh, they're getting pretty golden pretty quickly. So like I said, you want to make sure that you keep an eye on your oil and your oil temp, because you don't want them to cook too quickly on the outside and then have it so that they are, you know, not what the temperature that they need to be on the inside. So I turned this down a little bit. I'm checking the temperature. All right, we're over 350, which is not great. So I'm going to turn it down a little bit more. Do one more flip over. But, you know, it's a learning experience. We learn as we go. Let those, look at that beautiful color. So those are done slightly more than I would prefer them to be. So I have turned down my heat. Wowzer Bowser. Do not burn yourself. Be very careful. I turned down my heat a little bit. The main thing is to be very gentle while you're plopping them in the oil. I was not in that moment. I was not very careful. I just kind of dropped it, which you should absolutely be careful that you don't just plop, because that's when you get a burn. And I have done this culinary business long enough to know that it's not hard to burn yourself. That's a good looking Mickey beignet. I hope I'm cooking these long enough. I truly do not know. And if you're nervous about, you know, dropping these into the oil because you don't want to get burned, just use the tongs. Easy, simple. Just make sure that you, I prefer these rubber tongs because they won't scratch my, my pot. But to each his own. If you like the more metal ones, then more power to you. I don't think that it takes much for these to cook. Like, you know, in the same way that like a pancake kind of cooks all the way basically on one side, and then you're really just kind of flipping it over to cook the other, literal other side of it. I think these kind of are, oh no, the same way. Oh, his ear's falling off. All right. All right, our frying is done. Here are all our beignets. Let's give them a taste. I'm so nervous. You got to get out some powdered sugar, cover them in powdered sugar. And also you want to be very careful when you're disposing of the hot oil. My suggestion is take it off the heat, let it sit for a little bit so it's not scalding hot, then you can dispose of it. Alrighty, I covered these babies in some powdered sugar just like they do at the resorts and in Disneyland. So I didn't put it in a bag, I just put them on a plate and poured powdered sugar all over them. So let's give them a try. All right, they are a little bit warm. Cheers to you. All right, so I cut one open. As you can see, it is very dense. And as we all know, beignets should not be dense. They should be light and fluffy and wonderful. So there's a few reasons why maybe that happened. I might have fried them incorrectly. They might not have risen long enough. Now, they're still delicious. They have a wonderful donut-y flavor. The texture is more like it's like a donut. Would I still eat these? Absolutely, all day long. They're fantastic. I think I would personally have to do a little troubleshooting, maybe look up some things online as to why maybe mine were a little bit denser. I have a feeling it has to do with the amount I've mixed it, because if you overmix, a lot of the times you can get a rougher dough, and perhaps they weren't risen as much as much as they should have been. It did say double in size. I was a little thrown off by the fact that they didn't like poof out. But again, I would have to consult some experts on that. It's also very hot here, so the air conditioning is on. So there's really not like a warm place for me to put them. In order for them to rise properly, you would really need like a proofer, which would be fantastic, but my oven does not do that. All in all, the recipe was incredibly simple. It was incredibly easy to follow. I had no problems. I had no confusion. Sometimes recipes can be too intense, too labor intense. And this was not the case. If you wanted to try this with your kids, you absolutely could do it. You literally just dump all the ingredients together, mix it up. All that it is, the only downside I would say is time. You have to make sure that you set aside time. It rests for a half an hour and then it has to rise for an hour to an hour and a half. So you're looking at about 2 hours of your day where you just kind of have to hang out. So it's a great like weekend thing, maybe like a sleepover, fun sleepover project. But it's absolutely worth the try. Are these as good as they are at the resort? No. Those people have it down to a science. They also have a actual deep fryer. And I always feel like you get a much better fry with a deep fry than you can at your own home, even if you're using a pot. It's just that oil is more controlled. The temperature is controlled. I might have let my oil get a little too warm, which could be also why they cooked a little more dense, you know. So is it worth the try? Is it worth the effort? Yeah, why not? It was fun. It was easy. It was simple. It's delicious. And I had fun doing it. So let me know in the comments below what other yummy desserts or snacks or anything that you want to see me recreate. I'm going to be doing a whole series, so we're going to be doing a whole bunch of other things. I'm going to try a Jack Jack Num Num cookie. I'm going to try Dole Whip. I'm going to try the Polynesian noodles. I mean, it's going to be a whole thing. It's going to be awesome. So let me know in the comments what you thought about this recipe. Have you tried this recipe before? I mean, how well did it work out for you? Were yours this dense? I mean, were they light and fluffy and airy just like they are at the resorts? Let me know, and I'll catch you next time. So if you're looking for all the 411 on Disney and on Disney snacks, I've got you covered, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.